Hey everyone. I have done a lot of leadership seminars, small leadership workshops, and classes for potential leaders and groups of leaders at companies. And I've also mentored several people through becoming a leader. So there's a lot involved with becoming a leader, and there's a lot of different kinds of leaders. And not every kind of leader is great in every situation. There are certain types of leadership styles and traits that people should have for different situations. And one person can change their leadership style. They're not glued into that. So you may have an authoritative style at one point during a business's growth and move that to more of a transformative style and a more democratic approach or something like that later. But initially, it's important to understand really where you are and what your natural instincts are. By default, I tend to be more of the inspirational leader rather than a authoritarian leader. I hate when people are giving me every specific thing that needs to happen in their mind. So I hate it's like micromanagement to me. So I don't like doing it to other people. However, there are situations, especially when you're in a low skilled environment, when it's not a skilled trade or when it's not a development shop, which is kind of like high IQ work, when it is, the line at a restaurant with unskilled laborers, you may have to be more specific at telling them exactly what you need to do. And so that may take more authoritarian leadership. But once those line cooks get some skills and have the ability to think and troubleshoot problems on their own, then it's more of a delegation role. And you're letting them lead themselves and solve problems rather than you shoving it down their throat. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about today is there's 4 basic kinds of skills that are really important for leaderships. There's empathy building skills, listening skills, advocacy skills, and team building skills. And of these, I think everybody understands probably all of them except maybe advocacy. It's a respect building exercise, and I can go through that. So empathy, there's been a lot about emotional intelligence and leaders. So the higher your EI, your emotional intelligence, or your EQ, your emotional quotient, the more you're going to be able to adapt and be a great leader with your team. The more you're going to be able to sense what's going on, and the more you're going to be able to understand how people that you're leading feel. And that is critical because when you are leading people, everybody has their own personality. People have bad moods. People take things certain ways. There's politics going on. You need to be able to understand where people are coming from. If you can't address people where they are and address people appropriately for where they're coming from, then you'll never be able to lead successfully. So empathy has a lot to do with really understanding how people are feeling, how people are receiving a message, what people are going through, and feeling that for them and with them, and really seeing the world through their eyes. That will make you a much better leader. It's really the world is full of bad examples of leadership when empathy is non-existent. Almost every example of a bad leader is a non-empathetic leader. It's a leader who's thinking on a different scale and thinking people are affected differently. I've seen this happen a lot when there are, labor force hours decisions being made, pay decisions being made, benefits decision being made, and a lot of times people making those decisions have the benefit of, let's say, more liquidity, more income, more stability in their lives. And they're trying to make decisions, and they're kind of assuming that people have credit to lean on. They're assuming that people have flexibility. and can work the weekend and don't have other responsibilities or another job or kids. So those kind of things really are barriers that get in the way of leadership, and it's really because you're not taking the time to learn and understand your people. So empathy is really key, and part of that is getting in with your team and actually working with them. The more you get to know people and understand your team, the more you can empathize with them. The more distant you are from your team, the harder it is to have empathy. So, definitely spend time getting involved with your team. Next is listening, building listening skills. So, and all these are skills. So empathy, some people are just naturally high in empathy, but it can be developed. You can actually go out of your way to try to be empathetic, to listen to people and to think about what they're going through and think about what that would feel like. So listening is the next important skill. The team you work for is going to communicate problems with you, obstacles they have, issues, ideas, improvements, all kinds of things that could make the team win hard if you're listening to them. So adjustments that need to be made, a lot of times those improvements are going to come from your team. So not on here is don't take credit for that. Let your team have that credit. But you need to have your ears open to be able to listen to that. If you're not actively listening, and I'm talking about tuned in, engaged, listening to what they're saying, then they're going to know. They're going to know you don't care what they think. They're going to know that, their problems are going to go unaddressed because you're not really listening to them. So all of the great improvements and ideas are going to come from your team. So you need to take this mindset where you're not just leading with great ideas. They are. You are just their microphone. You're sitting here listening to your team, and your team is who is coming up with the amazing stuff. All right, next is advocacy. Now, going off of empathy and the listening aspects that we've already discussed, building advocacy is something that takes time. It's not just an overnight thing. You have to determine when your team needs an advocate. It may be pay or benefits. It may be you're taking the side of your team rather than the side of the company sometimes. It's advocating for a good idea or an improvement. It's saying, okay, this is solid and we need to implement this. Go, John or Susie or whoever. This is something we need to run with and advocate for them to succeed and champion them and, pave a runway for them to look good and for them to succeed. And especially individuals in your team, as well as the team as a whole, lift everybody up. That's your job. Now, team building. This is probably the hardest part. It's natural for everybody to try to, pick people like themselves. I see it all the time. It's natural. Everybody does it. So team building is a skill. It takes time to get this right. You'll practice. So by default, everybody will post job ads or pick people for your dream team. And a lot of times it's kind of your team ends up being just a bunch of clones of you and, or people that kind of think the same way you do. So that's usually not the most effective. They'll be really good at doing what you do, but everything else is going to fail. And I've seen this everywhere. I've been guilty of it too. So it is, go out of the way to pick people that think differently, that think more creatively, that have, or more scientifically, or more engineering mindset, or whatever. Think people that think more financially or mathematically. You need a rounded team of different thoughts and different ways of thinking. different mindsets. And that can be amplified by cultural differences, adding in cultural diversity and really kind of bringing in people that are from different cultures and maybe from different areas of the country, different races, different ethnicities, different economic backgrounds, different hardships and stuff that they've had to grow through, different educational opportunities, things like that. So then you have this team of just what seems like people that have a lot of differences, but you've also picked because there's some kind of common ground, there's some kind of common goal. You usually are forming a team for a purpose. Let's say the team is to make the fastest widget in the world. So you have an engineering person, you have some design people, some art people, some physics people, some math people, and some finance people to figure out the project costs, etc. And putting all that together to really make this dream team, where if you just had a bunch of engineers, and I've seen this happen, you have a bunch of engineers and they just engineer the heck out of something that's not practical, too expensive to operate in reality, is not able to be really produced or sold, is ugly, and so nobody would actually buy it, things like that. So you need a lot of minds involved in this and a lot of different angles involved in this. So in addition to helping pick these people, what's your job as a leader? It's to enable them and create this cultural glue. What's the cultural glue? Well, the team will kind of develop its own over time, but at the beginning, it's the vision and the mission and the objectives of this team. So if the team is to make the fastest widget, why? What's their why? Why are they making the fastest widget? Is there some goal, some reason? Is it to capture, the hearts and minds of Americans? Is it to, bring the world into a space generation? Is it to make people realize that new things are possible? What is the why? Because that why is going to help drive this cultural glue. And then communicating that vision, the mission, the objectives, the values of your team with your team, and helping them define what their values are. And so you can be a moderator in a workshop where you're developing what are the most important things to the team. How do we say that our project's done? What's our definition of done? What's our definition of good? How do we know that things are the way they should be? And what are the rules of operating? How do we know that we're mutually respecting each other and things like that? And create a foundation. Your job as a leader is to create that environment where it's safe. There's psychological and physical, but psychological safety for everyone on your team to develop this cultural glue together so that they can take risks together. Calculated risks where they can be agile, move quickly, come up with great ideas, and win for you. So team building is incredibly important. So to recap, our four kind of skills that you need to develop and continue to develop as a leader are empathy, listening, advocacy, and team building. Once you have those, there's a lot of iterations you can keep going through, but you have now a team that is able to function, and you as a leader are able to build respect and a high functioning team out of these four components. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.